G'day, chaps, 'tis I, ClownPuncher139. After one villainous scene, I found it only right to talk about other moments I loved from the Arkham saga. I did a poll asking which game I should talk about first, and you guys chose Arkham City, even if some of you didn't really understand what the poll was asking. That aside, let's just get right into it and talk about one of my favorite moments from Arkham City. As my favorite game of all time, it was hard to find just one moment from City to talk about, let alone a moment that hasn't already been talked to death. Obviously, Joker's death is the highlight of this game and series, but it's been talked about so much that I didn't want to just repeat what everyone else has been saying for years. So I had to look for another moment, and an aspect sometimes overlooked when talking about this game. The main villain, Hugo Strange. Strange is in an interesting place when talking about City. Lots of people give him praise, while just as many give him hate. It's a strange scenario for the main villain of the game to be in. So I figured I'd talk about him and what I consider to be his defining scene. Our story begins with a bright flash of white. Bruce Wayne is waking up screaming to a deep, unknown voice. He knows this voice, however, as Professor Hugo Strange, the man in charge of the city-sized super prison, Arkham City. Bruce was giving a press conference to shut Arkham City down, but the private militia in charge of the prison Tiger captured and locked him inside. Now, face to face with the man in charge, he begs him to shut the prison down. Strange questions why he would do that, then drops the big bombshell on all of us.
Shut it down. By the end of tonight, I will be a hero, just like you, Batman.
Moments later, we see Bruce seemingly wake up to have Strange right in his face. He makes sure you heard him the first time, stating that it's much easier to capture Bruce Wayne than Batman. And now that Bruce is in his custody,
Protocol 10 is ready to begin.
It will be his legacy, a monument to Batman's failure. And if Bruce tries to stop him, his secret will be revealed. So within moments of starting the game, you've already been introduced to the main threat and exactly how much power he has. He's able to capture Bruce Wayne during a large public event, chain him to a chair, reveal that he knows he's Batman, and still have the balls to stare him right in the face and lay out his plan. This is how you introduce a menacing villain and his power with respect to the hero. You don't need to have them throw the hero around like a rag doll or kill someone they love right in front of their face. Just have him get right in his face and taunt him. Taunt him with the vague threat of your plan. Taunt him with the fact that his biggest secret will be revealed if he tries to interfere. Taunt him with the fact that this plan will break him while only making you famous. So Bruce escapes Strange's custody and finds himself trapped in Arkham City. And that's pretty much all we see of Strange for a good majority of the game. Until much later in the story, Strange is completely relegated to the background. And honestly, the game really makes it work. Strange does a surprising amount behind the scenes to the point you might not have even known about most of it. One of the biggest things he does is give Deadshot work to do. He hires the world's deadliest assassin to go into the prison and hunt down anyone who has information on him and could speak bad about him. And he's completely successful in that regard. The only person who doesn't get taken out is Jack Ryder, only because Deadshot made mistakes and Batman could step in. Furthermore, Strange gave Deadshot a very specific and interesting list, and a schedule to work off of. First are the 3 prisoners Batman ends up investigating. Then there are 3 more targets: Jack Ryder, Bruce Wayne, and Batman. So what this means is that Strange accounted for Batman actually beating him and had a contingency ready to make sure he didn't truly win. That, or he just gave Deadshot an impossible list so he wouldn't have to pay him up front for his service. Either way, it's a genius move on his part, and we're just getting started. Strange was the one who allowed Penguin to get Freeze. If you don't believe me, check the interview tapes. Penguin was checking in with Strange one last time about a weapons deal they had, and confirmed that Joker was indeed dying. Strange had Freeze in the same building as he knew he was commissioned to make Joker a cure for his illness. Strange handed Freeze over to Penguin, knowing it would likely lead to Joker's death. Meanwhile, he also revealed the identities of the GCPD officers working undercover for Penguin. He knew Gordon was suspicious of him, so ended up discovering their identities, making Gordon's and Batman's jobs all the harder. He throws Mayor Quincy Sharp into the prison to keep any vital information from leaking out to the press. He may have the mayor under his hypnosis, but we see the state Sharp is in when Batman interrogates him. He's not exactly going to keep quiet. So it only makes sense to throw him in with the lunatics who hate him so much from the asylum. Furthermore, this works because he knows Sharp doesn't know too much. So in the unlikely event that Batman saves him before he dies, he can't give him any truly vital information, namely the identity of Ra's al Ghul as his benefactor. He provides weapons to the inmates. As I just said, he has a weapon deal going on with Penguin, where Penguin gets high-grade weapons in exchange for doing Strange's disposal work, for lack of a better word. However, he's also giving Joker weapons under the guise that they're being stolen from him. He's doing this to trick the public into thinking the inmates are planning a mass escape and attack on Gotham, further justifying the use of Protocol 10. And speaking of, let's talk about Protocol 10. It's supposedly the main driving force of the game. However, when you look at the structure of the story, it really isn't. After Bruce's confrontation with Hugo, he goes to try to get information as to what it is. However, once Joker infects him with his blood, that plotline is completely dropped. You go through a huge string of gameplay, probably upwards of 3 to 4 hours if you're playing casually, and all you get are Strange's occasional updates on how far away Protocol 10 is.
Protocol 10 will commence in 5 hours.
And frankly, I find that absolutely brilliant. Think about it this way. For a casual playthrough, you spend the first hour or so trying to get information on what Protocol 10 is. You find out where Catwoman is, so go to ask her since she knows information. She doesn't have any, unfortunately, but claims that the Joker might. So Batman's quest then becomes finding Joker in hopes that he has information on Protocol 10. After the side quest to save the Doctor, we find out not only that Joker doesn't know anything about Protocol 10, but he's also poisoned Batman and potentially the rest of Gotham. So now, Batman is on the clock to find a cure for his poisoning and stop Protocol 10. Throughout the rest of the game, you hear Strange checking in to remind you of Protocol 10 slowly closing in hour by hour.
Protocol 10 will commence in 2 hours.
With each check-in, you begin wondering more and more what Protocol 10 might be and if you'll be able to work fast enough to stop it. And it all culminates during the return to the steel mill. As Batman is working his way through the cooling tunnels, Oracle checks in with a big reveal. Commissioner Gordon was summoned to City Hall because Strange has requested that Emergency Protocol 10 be activated. He told the council members that the inmates were planning a mass escape and attack on Gotham, using illegal weapons he couldn't stop the use of. The council is disappointed in Strange, as they never thought Protocol 10 would need to be activated. But they gave him permission anyway. This is a really interesting point for Strange as a character. Until this point, we see him on top of everything. He doesn't prepare for Protocol 10 until he knows Batman's identity and has him locked in the prison. He hires a mercenary to kill anyone in the prison who might have information to be used against him. He keeps Quincy Sharp completely in the dark about his connections, only giving him the resources he needs to get Strange what he wants. He provides weapons for the inmates to riot and potentially escape, giving the public the notion that he's no longer in control. But now we come to realize that Protocol 10 wasn't even guaranteed to happen. Strange was completely banking on the idea that the council would absolutely allow him to enact Protocol 10. He goes on the whole night counting down to it, but he didn't even have permission to go through with it yet. It's one of the most important character traits of Strange on full display that was more or less hidden throughout the rest of the story, his cockiness. And we'll get to the rest of that soon enough. After all the build-up to Protocol 10, there are only 10 minutes left as Batman confronts Joker again. He's able to defeat him, but Protocol 10 goes on as planned. Strange is launching missile strikes all across Arkham City in an attempt to rid the city of criminal filth for good. It worked. Strange's plan is now in full effect. Batman can stop it, but the damage is already being done. Hundreds are already dead, and the world is seeing what Batman couldn't, or rather wouldn't, do. Batman makes his way to the processing center where all this started, but Strange was ready for him.
Stop right there, Batman. We need to talk.
Notice here how Strange very clearly knows Batman is trying to stop him right now, but doesn't reveal his identity to the many people in this room. Some would call this lazy and inconsistent, but it really isn't. As Strange himself puts it, he's won. Protocol 10 is in effect, and even if he can shut it down, the damage is already done. He could put an end to Batman right now just by saying Bruce Wayne. But he doesn't because he truly believes there is nothing Batman can do to stop him. He taunts Batman, saying he's the reason all his rogues gallery exists, saying that he is finally defeated. He doesn't need to reveal the truth about Batman's identity if he's already beaten. And that is a power move if I have ever seen one. Strange truly believes there is no way for Batman to stop him or erase his legacy, especially with all the precautions he's taken to keep him from the top of the tower. He thinks he's on top of the world and nothing is going to bring him down.
Now, kill him.
And now we get to the great scene I've been building up. Batman has climbed Wonder Tower. He's defeated dozens of Tiger Guards and is now face to face with Strange. As he hacks the door open, Strange says a very interesting line.
Can you hear me, Mr. Wayne? Of course you can. Understand this. You cannot defeat me. I am untouchable.
Now, what was that line he said at the beginning of the game again?
I assume that you thought yourself untouchable. Well, as you can see, no one is untouchable.
Strange has become so confident and disillusioned that he's contradicting himself, and he actually believes it. As after Batman hacks the door, Strange stands his ground and faces Batman head on.
You have not won. You cannot win. I, Hugo Strange, am your successor. I have saved Gotham.
He does not fear Batman and still thinks he's won. Or so you think. Going into detective mode before opening the door reveals something pretty interesting about Strange. He's nervous. You'd expect him to be completely calm and collected, as his words and tone of voice indicate. But he's not. He's nervous. It's at this point you begin to think about why Strange is actually saying all this. We know he isn't scared of Ra's, as he did everything he wanted and believes his master wouldn't betray him. So is he scared of Batman beating him up and winning? I don't think so. Batman kicks him across a table and he still berates him about ruining everything. As he's thrown across the room, he tells Batman to get his hands off him and taunts that his work is glorious when Batman slams his face into the glass. He's not scared of Ra's or Batman. I think he's scared of the realization that he's about to fail. And he's just using these words as a bizarre coping mechanism. Strange thinks to himself throughout the whole game that he's won. From the moment he has Bruce Wayne in custody, he believes that he's the city's savior. He's manipulated just about everybody into his plan, ensuring it goes off without a hitch. And it does exactly that. Once he says,
Then let Protocol 10 commence.
He's won. Batman was not able to stop his plan from going through. But once Batman tries to resist and stop the plan already in progress, he gets scared. He thought he was dead, or at least unconscious in the steel mill when the ceiling collapsed. And if he wasn't, surely the dozens of helicopters in the city skyline would be able to see and shoot him down. If that didn't work, surely his personally trained military would be able to subdue him. And even if that failed, surely he wouldn't be able to climb the incredibly tall Wonder Tower without falling and avoiding the sight of a helicopter sweeping the tower. But against all odds, Batman makes it and comes face to face with Strange. He has lost, but Strange doesn't want to believe it, so he keeps uttering the same things he's been saying all game as a way of softening the blow. He doesn't want to believe that he's lost after all he's done. But as we see soon after, Ra's agrees that he's lost. He stabs his pupil for his failure and thinks of him as nothing as he bleeds out. With his final breath, however, he activates Protocol 11. Destroy Wonder Tower and everyone inside. Batman is able to escape the blast with Ra's in freefall, but the Master falls to his death on his own creation. Strange obviously dies in the blast, never to return to the Arkham saga. If someone were to describe Hugo Strange in 3 words, they would probably be genius, prepared, and cocky. He's a genius for discovering Batman's identity and manipulating all the villains to his master plan. He's prepared for just about any scenario that may come up during the night by locking Sharp up in Arkham City and hiring Deadshot to take out any political affiliates left in the prison. And he's cocky for assuming Protocol 10 would be allowed and for underestimating Batman. Strange's fatal flaw is his cockiness, and it's the main reason Batman was able to defeat him. Strange thinks he's won from the moment he captures Bruce, as I said earlier. He keeps saying that he's defeated Batman as he inches closer and closer to being defeated himself. He had no guarantee that Protocol 10 would even be allowed to activate. When he went to the city council, they could have easily denied him use of Protocol 10 and Strange's plan would be a total bust. Yet he spends the entire night counting the event down like it's guaranteed to be approved. All of this goes to show how overconfident Strange is, and why Batman was able to defeat him. Strange is a really interesting character to me, if you couldn't already tell. He's probably the most passively active antagonist Batman has faced. On the surface, he doesn't do anything except taunt Batman from a distance. But as soon as you look at the little events of the game, you see a genius villain who is able to outsmart the hero from beginning to end. Through careful manipulation and use of his status, he was able to keep Batman at bay for 10 hours and get his plan approved by the powers of the city, and only his overconfidence served as his downfall. And this moment, when he's staring Batman, not Bruce Wayne, Batman, directly in the eyes, mere inches from his face, without a hint of shakiness in his voice. This is his one amazing scene.